Here we are another week at Mutant Watch, and today we're gonna talk New X-Men Academy X, which was a, some characters are run like according to some people that could include New Mutants before it, New X-Men after it. It's a whole thing. We're gonna talk about it, and we have here Tori from More Mutants. You can follow them on Instagram, and they do live shows. We're actually gonna be on their show next week, next Sunday at 3 p.m. EST. So please catch us up there because we're gonna talk about costumes. And if you're not interested in us talking about costumes, whatever. So anyway, we
Come
have Tori
anyway, even
here.
if you're not interested. We don't care. Just come see us.
Just
Yes,
come. It'll be great.
okay. And we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna talk about these characters. I think I forgot a lot about what happens in this run, so it's kind of refreshing to talk about them. And yeah, so let's go. Thanks, Story, for coming to our show.
Yay. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yay!
This week on Mutant Watch.
Okay, so first of all, um, I think like a general idea of like why you. Okay, I'm gonna ask Tori specifically why you ask us to do this because there's two things, two options you gave us. We're not gonna
Mhm.
spoil the other one. So why you ask us this one specifically, and then I'm gonna ask both Gabriel and I guess what impression do we have of this run? Because this was a while ago.
Yeah, it
Getting
was
old.
early 2000s,
Early
which
2000s.
yeah, which I think is why it has stuck with me so long because I was into comics already back then, but like I think people our age when we got into X-Men, like it's not like we started with X-Men number 1, right? You like jump in
Hmm.
where you can and then you like learn about X-Men and you just kind of like follow it until you understand what's happening because there's so much happening all the time. And new X-Men or like that New Mutants run right before it was like one of the first times when I was reading comics like weekly that I got to follow the characters like pretty much from their origin and like be there for that and follow them like as they grew up. And I think I was a little bit older than some of the characters, but the fact that they were kind of close to my age was also like a big draw for me. So I just like really emotionally fell in love with this group of characters. And so it always has stuck out in my mind as like one of my favorite runs. It has like some low points, but it has some really amazing points too that I just love. So
So for me, I was so excited that we got to do this show. Doing the show is something we've spoken about a lot because we do reference these characters because Duna and we talk a lot about the trauma of these poor X-Men characters. And
wow.
I don't think anyone is more traumatized than this class. It is just
Mm-mm.
so much nonstop.
Yeah.
I was making a list and it's like, of the people who made it past House of M, over a third of them have been murdered or maimed or destined to destroy the world. It's a lot. But kind of like what you said, Tori, it's the timing was just perfect.
Mhm.
The start of Academy X really coincided, and I didn't realize this until you mentioned it, with when I started getting into reading comics regularly.
Mhm.
Because I came in right before House of M, and that's when this all started.
Yeah.
And so I really connected with the characters. I was a little bit older, but not too much older. Um, and it's just a good title.
Mhm.
Like it got some problems, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Early
Um,
2000s.
yeah, but all in all, like it's why I love the X-Men. it's the drama, it's the relationships between the characters, and kind of, and I'll talk more about this later, I'm sure, but kind of looking at what was going on at the same time, it really did a lot of the heavy lifting. Like, one of the main titles was just Professor X. One of the main titles were just like, let's kick him out to space. Like, wherein New X-Men really, I felt, was the X-Men.
So I think for me, like when I started reading comics, I'm trying to like get the framework here. I think this series had just like ended or something like that. So I saw this in the book sales a lot. So I do remember it because like the first comic that really I was like in love with was New Mutants Volume 1. So that's when like I started reading comics, like really getting into comics with New Mutants Volume 1. And like very quickly jumped to New Mutants Volume 2 and read it as well because I wanted to like I thought that it continued the story. It does kinda, but not at all. Yeah, a little bit. So like I do like the same things. I gotta be honest, and as we get into the show, I'll talk more about this. I don't really like any of these characters as much as I like the original New Mutants. Because the original New Mutants are like my babies. I love every one of them to pieces, and I don't feel like such a strong connection with these characters. With some of them, yes. Like I was talking with Gabriel before we started the show, like with I don't know, with Prodigy and Mercury and Ano and Laura, because Laura appears after. I do have like a lot of connection, but not precisely because of this run. But I do like their storylines a lot. Like the style of the storylines is this whole thing that you all say, like it's like really for teenagers, but at the same time, it's really traumatic and like dense and like harsh. And I think that's what we most talk about in Mutant Watch. Like what we talk
So,
more is about drama, gay stuff, and like
yeah,
Yes,
which
that's
which
what I'm
is
here
Tuna,
for.
which is pretty much what you said. You said without saying that you don't really have too much connection to the book, but you love that there were gays in it. A Knoll, Prodigy, Mercury, Loa. You just
And
you
you know
just
what?
you
I'm
just
so sad that like most of them didn't come out until like much later because like it would have been so great to like have that in the
yes.
book when they were all like the kids in the school. But yeah, it's great that like at least later on now we know that most of them are queer, which just makes it even better.
yeah. Okay, so favorite storylines or like arcs or whatever that you both have. I just drop it there. And least favorite. Let's say the two together, so it's less of a.
Okay. Um, I can start. Because I just reread it all this past week to like make sure that I was fresh on it. Because like we were just saying, like I hadn't read it in like at least 10 years, so I was like, let me refresh. Um, and my favorite storyline in just like the new X-Men Academy X run is the Quest for Magic storyline. I think mostly because that was the arc that Scotty Young does the art for. And that for some reason, even though it's only like 5 or 6 issues, like his art of those characters is what like really stuck with me. And that's what I always think of when I think of a lot of these characters is like his art style designs. Yes. And also I love magic, so that's when we got like Dark Child showing back up in Limbo, and that was also like just a super dramatic emotional arc where some really dark stuff happens that the kids have to reckon with, which is, as we were just saying, something that happens to them a lot, unfortunately. But I think that's part of what made this run like special was that like they go through so much trauma together, but then we get to see like how they try and deal with it and how it affects their friendships and how it like brings some of them closer. And so this was definitely some of that. And we also got some good. We were talking before about how like Mercury is a little for all of us. But I did like this Quest for Magic arc came like right after she had just gone through some really difficult stuff, and she and Laura had like kind of bonded and become friends, and we get to see some of that in this arc too, which I really like. Yeah, I think that's my favorite out of all of it.
I honestly, I don't know what my favorite is because there's a lot of like moments that I really absolutely love, but they also tend to coincide with things that I absolutely hate. I do think that the directly after House of M, the decimation, I think it's called Childhood's End. I think
Mhm.
that really hits.
Yeah.
And I think it shows us a lot of stuff, and it gives us goodbye to the Academy X characters. But at the same time, I really hate some of the things they did. Like Jay setting himself up to die was stupid. Julian is at peak asshole throughout all of
Mhm.
this. Um, they're very dismissive of Tag, which they are throughout his entire life. So I shouldn't have been surprised. But at the same time, I like that it acknowledged the relationship between characters. But I have to say, I think my favorite issue of the run is the run directly after that, when Lucinda Guthrie comes in, and we
Mhm.
see Dust apologize and break down to her, and they're dealing with the aftermath of the bus and Tag's funeral. I think that all of that is really, really good. Likewise, North Star's funeral, that it handles grief really well, and it's just well done in an emotional way. I don't see too much in comics now, in X-Men
Mhm.
comics nowadays. I think my least favorite, is my least favorite storyline, not an arc storyline, is Josh and Rain. I know,
Okay, hard same.
and then I'm a little concerned with how many minor adult relationships there were in this. You had Josh and Rain have an actual relationship. You have David having Prodigy having a crush on Moonstar. You have Celine making out with Wither, and it's just I am concerned. It is no,
I do
Yeah, and
have
no.
this
to say, I absolutely hated that also. Like Josh and Rain hooking up is absolutely terrible. Uh at the very least, it does not make it better, but I was pleased to like be reminded when I was rereading it that at least it was handled. Like at least like once it got out that that was happening and like they told the staff like Rain was fired, it was like explained like why this is not okay.
Rain was
And
not
Rain
fired.
was not
or
fired.
sorry,
Rain was not
she left.
fired.
She was
Yeah,
maybe
She ran
fired.
out.
they like talked about they were gonna fire. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's true. It was like kind of vague, and then she left. But I was like, at
For
least
X
there was.
Factor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least there was a conversation about it. Like because in a lot of like early 2000s media, I think like teacher student relationships are super like romanticized.
Yeah,
So yeah, it
that's when
shouldn't have
we
happened
got
at all. But yeah.
like to put a context to this. I think this is the era of the Britney Spears like her like roots into fame, and so like that type of like student like as kind of like a sexy thing was like very very much in the media. Like it was in
Mhm.
shows, it was in TV,
Yeah.
it was everywhere.
And also
Which
kind of
doesn't excuse it, but it
yeah,
was everywhere.
and
Right.
also kind of putting it more in context, which is I hate that this is making me hate it less, but to kind of put it in a little bit in context, like it was something that kind of power dynamic where it was the female teacher and it was the male student, there wasn't too many conversations about how that is also
That's
bad.
true.
Yeah, that's
Um,
also grooming. Yeah.
and
That's a
they
really good
did
point.
acknowledge that it was Rain who
Mhm.
acted badly in this.
Yeah.
Um, and even the one time someone made a comment about how, like, oh, Elixir was a stud for getting with a teacher, it was pretty clearly that it was being an asshole. Like,
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
wasn't that mindset wasn't allowed. So
Yeah.
if it was done, I guess that it was something important to be done so that way people can read it and be like, hey, this is bad, but nothing happened.
I
And
do
that's
have
like
yeah.
Rain was in another title like 3 weeks later, and
Yeah.
she was fine. Well, She wasn't fine. She kind of went through stuff there too, but that's a different show.
He was going through some stuff
Was
in that
not
time.
fine. Yeah, no, I gotta say, like, one thing that I don't like about that, like, now that we're talking, we got right into the problematic stuff. Like, now,
Yeah.
now that we're talking about it, I don't like that. I like a lot the issue in which, like, the issue that Tori referenced it, like the one in which they handle it. I really love that issue, but I don't like how it's done until it gets there. Because, like, before it gets there, before it gets to, like, it gets out, the word gets out, like, we have this conversation between Danny and Josh, which is really good. Like, Danny really puts, like, everything into perspective, like, for the river and everything. But if you don't read that issue, the issue before, it's weird, like, just visually weird, like, just like it is not handled well, like, it's really, really romanticized. So that, like, I do believe that they understood that they had made a mistake there. I still believe that there was a mistake before, because it's not,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's kind of like they want us to root for them a little bit. And no one should root for them. Stop it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I do like it how they also, cause I totally agree with everything that you guys have said. How also like it kind of kept coming up. Like I think Josh keeps saying to Rain that like, she's 19, she's only 3 years older than him. And I do like how they were like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still not okay that she's, even though she's only 3 years older than you, she's still an adult, she's still a teacher. Like, you guys can't be doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah, there's like a position of power that she
Right.
has on that situation. Okay, so now that I talk about my favorite and my least favorite,
Yeah, do it.
uh,
You didn't talk about yours. Give us yours, Duna.
yeah, okay, I'm going. So, like, both the storylines you both mentioned. My favorite is the one that Gabriel said, the childhoods and one.
Mhm.
I do like that one. I do believe, like, it's really earned. Like, if you, because the thing that I did is I didn't release like New Mutants Volume 2, because I have reread that, like, a bunch of times, so I do remember it pretty well. But I did reread, like, New X-Men till a little bit later than that point. And I do believe that once you get there, the emotions of the characters, like, it's really earned. It's a really well done story. Like, I think this is the new creative team. It's just right there, Craig and Joss, and, like, they do really well with what these characters have done till this moment. And it's also the moment that Laura joins the team, and that's, like, a really high point for me, because I do believe that they do a really good Flora.
Mhm.
I also love North Star's funeral. I was rereading that and I was, like, almost crying, because it's really beautiful. And, like, even it's more beautiful knowing more about these characters now. And also, like, Danny should come out. I was like, Danny had the last word here, and Sam was like, Danny should have the last word. Okay, I end my rant about the gays. So
Let's
anyway,
go.
Yeah. Also, kind of with that in hindsight, looking at the people who spoke at the funeral, it was Karma,
Mhm.
Iceman,
yeah,
Moonstar,
Iceman,
and
Iceman,
Sasquatch. It's
Iceman. I was
almost
seeing Iceman there, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
it was almost all gay. Like,
Yeah. Okay, so my least favorite, and I'm sorry, Tori, is the Quest
Okay.
for Magic. Uh,
That's okay.
It's not because of these characters. I do believe this is a really good story for these characters. I think it's my least favorite in a personal way, not in a, like, it's not badly done for these characters. I do like how it relates to to Pixie and, like, Blindfold. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I really like. I just don't like Magic's Resurrection at all. Like, she's one of my favorite
Mhm.
characters, and she, like, I don't believe, like, she went through, like, I don't know, 7 writers in, like, 3 years, and I don't believe that they gave her a good reason for why she was an asshole when she resurrected. Like, they try to, like, this is not herself, there's no soul, whatever,
Mhm.
but it doesn't, like, come to anything concrete. And then we get Ileana, characterized as Ileana before, without really anything changing, except the fact that, like, she, like, stole Pixie's soul, but, like, that,
Mhm.
either way, after that happens, there's still, like, the stuff where Ileana is evil. So it's weird. It's weird. And that's me like ranting about magic. We have a show about magic tomorrow. I can shut up.
So I was there. I'm literally in the middle. That's why I had ran out of time. Was the quest for
Mhm.
magic, and it kind of just led to my confusion. We can talk more about magic tomorrow. Tori, tune in. We'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch because I love magic too.
But it's kind of like I still don't know what happened to magic. Like it's magic, but it's not magic. It's like Belasco just kind of plucked remnants of her throughout hell and super
It
glued her
was
together.
very confusing. Like her part in it is very confusing. I'll totally agree with that. I think everything that happened with the other characters in it is what I
Yes.
really liked because like that is when like Anol's arm gets ripped off and he like grows
Yeah.
back his like new arm, so he learns about that, and like Elixir grows Prodigy's heart back and like brings him back to life. So like that's like a huge moment. And I just think there's a lot of like good like there's such good character moments in like the limbo situation. And again, because they've been through so much before that too, that's just like, oh my god.
Yeah, what I love about the quest for magic is that it's like the writers are finally fully acknowledging the fact that their roster is not just 6, 7 kids. So,
That's true, yeah.
you have Trance making the break out of limbo, which is an impressive use of her power that no one acknowledges.
Yeah,
You have
poor Trance.
Anol stepping up as a leader kind of accidentally. You have Blindfold fully interacting with the other kids, which is not something she's done yet. You even have Wolf Cub and Match showing some form of personality. That's also when Rockslide gains his new body.
Mhm.
And it's also Mercury working through her trauma from getting skinned a couple of issues earlier. It does a lot of emotional work with the full cast. And it's also the first time I think we see Hellion and Surge actually on the same page as each other.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big step in the comic when throughout the whole post House of M run, they've been at each other's throats.
Mhm. I feel like it's either during Quest for Magic, like right after it too. I feel like Hellion does a lot of like kind of growing too finally, because like you were saying before, like he's a total asshole for like a huge chunk of this run, and then I feel like it was like kind of around there where we finally started to see like how much he actually cares about his teammates and like how much it is affecting him for the first time. There's like a vulnerable moment with like him and Dust, like after the limbo situation. That was finally like, oh, okay, Julian actually does care about these people.
Now it's a great moment to talk about favorite characters, Gabriel.
My favorite, I love Hellion. I know I'm in the minority, but I love Hellion. Starting from like when he first gets introduced, he's kind of shown, and yes, it's a trope, but it's a trope I eat up, where it's like the popular asshole who's secretly not an asshole, but only with the girl he likes. And that kind of takes us through with Wind Dancer. And then after the tragedies start hitting, he starts falling apart. Like he's trying to keep the persona, he's trying to be an asshole, but he ends up driving people away. And then when push comes to shove, he burns out his power to save X-23, who at this point he just thinks is weird murder girl. And he burns out his power because he's sick of losing friends. And that is something that he has never shown to have recovered from, is that kind of fine motor skill, until he loses his hands, which comes after Academy X, but it's just yet more trauma for this kid. And I think there was so much buildup with him and his evolution of character and just how desperate he is for approval and for praise. He's an asshole because he wants to be Frost's favorite student. He wants to be the leader. He wants to be the hero. And then he just keeps failing. And I think for me, what I think is the like peak Hellion, and also like the last time he was super important, was he actually, after all of this, once like I think Utopia hits, he begs Magneto essentially to join the Brotherhood, and Magneto says no. Like, I don't want you. And I think that is such a rock bottom, but then we never really see much else.
Yeah.
And I personally think it's because they gave all of his development to Kid Omega afterwards, which I'm not happy with, but it's the same kind of trajectory. And I think I'll try not to complain too much about this, but I think Wolverine and the X-Men is the worst thing to have happened to these kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
same.
won't argue with you there.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he is my absolute favorite character in this run. And if he would show up, he would definitely rank in my top 10 X-Men of all time.
Yeah.
You're almost convincing me.
There is so much potential there. He just needs to come back. Just give me a book of the new X-Men in Krakoa in therapy. That's
I would sell my soul for that. Like that, I need that
please.
in my life. That's all I want. Me and Dan literally just talked about this on our show the other night, where he was like, we just have to like headcanon assume that that's what's happening this whole time. They like reunited on Krakoa. They've been getting therapy finally, like taking it easy. That's what they need.
Okay, your favorite character, Tori?
Oh my gosh. I love most of these characters so much. It's like hard for me to pick a favorite. And Hellion did win me over, like you were saying, when we finally started to see that he had an actual character arc that was happening. I love him too, and he needs to come back. I think if I had to pick one, mine would be Elixir, because Josh has kind of a similar character arc, and he's actually like one of the most complex X-Men characters, I feel like. Just the things that he's been through, like starting out as a Reaver, like growing up like as a like with a bigoted family and hating mutants, then finding out that he's a mutant and like coming to the school. All the kids hate him at first, obviously, because he's a Reaver. And he's also a jerk when he first shows up. He's very arrogant and like kind of a dick. And Prodigy really like calls him out and is like, you're a follower no matter what. Like you're willing to just fit in with the crowd, even if that means doing shitty things. And like, and then Josh kind of really grew from that. And then his powers expanding, like turning him into a physical mutant, which was like a huge change. Then he gets a death touch and he's like an Omega level mutant and he has to deal with that. And then he goes through all these like crazy emotional issues too, with like Lori dying and his powers evolving. And then I think that at one point Kitty says like, we need to be careful with Josh because he could be the next Magneto if we don't like, make sure he's doing okay and, watch out for him. But then he also is another character that I feel like just kind of got just dropped off after this like epic arc that he had going, and he's on the 5 now, which makes sense. But I feel like they were setting him up for just like such awesomeness and it got wasted. But in this run, I thought he just had like also like Hellion, a really good like character growth that you got to see. But yeah, I love all of these kids and I want them all to come back.
So since you said you love Julian, I have a question. What are your thoughts on Hellion and Delora?
I wanted to see like more of that. Like someone because we did a like best X-Men ships video forever ago on our channel, and someone like commented like, where's Julian and X-23? And I was like, I just feel like they had such potential, but it just like we didn't really get to see it. But I was definitely interested in where they were gonna go. Like I thought it could be really good. But I think that's like you were saying, such a turning point for him too, where you see him like suddenly like start to care for her as a person. Because before that, the kids are just like terrified of her and they don't know how to like relate to her, and she doesn't know how to relate to them. And and then he suddenly like cared so much about saving her. I wish we'd had more time with them.
Okay, I think I'm gonna say Laura. I, Yeah, I know. I can even choose one of the main kids.
I
Uh,
mean, Laura's great.
yeah, I do. She's one of my favorite characters in general, but I really like her in this book. Like, I do have a problem with that ship, but I gotta say, maybe my problem is that like the main series in which that ship develops is the one in which I ship Laura and Jubilee. So maybe that's my problem. No, like okay, so I think one of the reasons why I like, because like these kids go through a lot, but like there's a point where they meet Laura, and the things that Laura has gone through are like I feel like next level. I'm sad that they don't get like really referenced that much in this book, because like maybe because this is a book supposedly for teenagers, and like how you how you gonna like this is like directed at teenagers, and like the ENYX book was definitely not. It was definitely a book that had like the like 18 plus adults only thing on the cover. So like I think there's a different like audiences in general. Like the X-23 books with the ones that Marjorie Liu wrote as well, they do have blood on them, which is really weird for like comic books in the late 90s and early 2000s that was still not getting a lot into books, so they are like very much branded and marketed as adult books. And this one not so much, even if the themes and the things that happen are really traumatic. I do believe like Laura crosses with a lot of them because she has been adultified at this point a lot, and more than the other kids. Like some of these kids still think about themselves as kids. Laura doesn't, and I do connect with that. Like gotta be honest, like that's instant connection and emotion for me. Like she's very adultified, and yeah, but I don't know. Like honestly, there's a lot of great characters, but still I feel bad because most of the great characters that I can think about in this book for me are like Anol and characters that don't like are not like the main storylines of the book. Um I guess I like Sophia as well. I wish we had more of her. Like when she's like the point of view of the book, it's really fresh for me. But that lasts for like a few issues, not nonetheless. And you all both convinced me on Joe's and Julian as well. So maybe
Yes.
I do like these characters. Who knows?
Yay! No, I think to your point, yeah, Laura has like such an emotional storyline in this, and she goes through so much. Like she kind of just gets like dumped off at the school with like no support, and yeah, she doesn't know how to like be one of the students or join the team. And then Emma is so
Fucks up
awful
with
to
her
her.
face. Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, oh man.
yeah, I don't. This is one of the books which make it very difficult for me, or made it very difficult for me to like connect with the. This is gonna be controversial if someone clips it. I'm have a very hard time connecting with Emma as like a motherly figure. I don't see it at all, and I'm sorry
I
because I know that's
well,
controversial, but like
I I don't think Emma is ever meant to be a motherly figure.
okay, well
Sh
like yeah, okay,
Yeah, she is definitely not like if
but
if
like
if
lately her
Emma
whole
reminds you of
personality
a
is
mother,
caring
your
about
mother,
kids.
yeah, and I think that's what it is. She cares about kids, and that is definitely true. But if Emma reminds you of your mother, especially in this one, get therapy. She is she's not nice.
Yeah.
She is very much a cruel person at times. But her cruelness comes from this like desperate pathological need to protect the children.
Mhm.
And she is driven so far beyond her edge, and she is re-traumatized by all the new trauma because she is now losing more students, and losing students is Emma's number one defining character trait, and she is constantly trying to just protect the children in a world that the children are constantly in danger.
Mhm.
um And I think one of my favorite moments in the book is Emma's, we'll say, conversation with Miss Marvel. When Miss Marvel shows up to try to get them to register, and she does this in the same trip that she's telling them they found Jay's Guthrie's body. And Miss Marvel's like, oh, with Stanford and all the things that happened. And Emma goes on this monologue where she's like, yeah, we know about Stanford. We were there. We were helping clean up the rubble. Where were you when the bus got exploded? Where were you when Stryker killed our students in an attack? Where were you at all these funerals? And to me, that was a very powerful point that drove home, even when Emma's horrible, like she's frequently horrible, especially in this book. But it is coming from a place of wanting to protect the children. Doesn't excuse how horrible she is. But I think that's like a nuance to her character that makes me like the character.
I totally agree. I think you did such a good job of explaining that because, I feel like it is a really like nuanced portrayal, and a lot of it is going unsaid, and like you have to kind of just like see the context of it. But that moment that you were just talking about with Ms. Marvel is incredible, and I love that there's a panel like after everyone leaves the room where Emma just collapses on the floor and starts crying, and that's like the only time really that we get to see her actually break down like among all these horrible things that have happened. And she says to Surge, like at the end of the series, after like or during the Messiah Complex issues, because Surge is like also struggling with a lot of the same things, not being able to protect her teammates. And, she's like asking Emma, why did you make me the leader? You pushing us away. And Emma like straight up says like, yeah, I'm pushing you away because I need you to survive. Like I need you to be strong enough to survive. And that's why I'm pushing you away, like emotionally. And yeah, it's like her methods are not correct, but like her, like, what she wants, like her intention is, like she wants to protect the kids at any cost. And I think she doesn't know how to do that. So she's just desperate.
And even with X-23, with Laura, she's horrible. She is horrible from the moment that girl shows up on the panel.
Yeah.
But then she also seeks out Kimura and like rips away her only good memory in like retaliation for what she's doing to Laura, and which is, I think, it's just bad in general. Like that, I feel like that helps nothing. But like, like I don't know what she thought that would accomplish. It's horrible.
Just make her more of a villain.
Exactly. I feel like that was a bad move, but once more, it came from this place of protecting her kids. I don't see how that protects her kids, but in her head, I'm sure she had a reason. I don't know what.
You are right.
Clearly, I have a lot of emotions about this run.
I do the same.
I'm seeing it. I'm living it as well. Like this is like when we talk about like Inferno, like, and I was like,
Okay. Speaking of emotions, I have another question for you both. Your opinions on Dust, particularly in this run.
Okay. Ooh. You wanna go first? Or whatever you want.
Mixed. I think like it's, especially with the timing of when this book came out, like it's definitely, I don't know. I mean, it's also not my place to say. Like, I'm not Muslim, so I can't really speak to like the portrayal of Dust. But I do think that like Dust has some incredible moments in this book, and I really love her as a character, especially like later on in the series. I think like early on, it's a little like possibly stereotypical. But I feel like later on, as we get more depth, a little bit from Dust, and as she connects with some of the other characters, like I think she's such a great character that's like needed on that team. But yeah, there's some stuff like, like Surge is so awful to Dust when they become roommates, and like that was difficult to read because like it didn't really like get addressed or like solved in any way.
Nope.
But then I loved Jay and Dust. I thought they were so like sweet, and Jay was such a like compassionate, amazing character that did not deserve what happened to him. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, mixed. Like I love the character, but like I don't know that if she's always been handled like, you know, appropriately.
Yeah, okay, I do think like this book is of its time because like the whole church and that thing is like like it's transparent to me. I'm seeing the writers being like, you have to respect Muslims, even if you have these arguments probably in your head. Let's express them through a character so you can have them refute by us. Like that's like I'm seeing it happening, so it's not doing it for me. It doesn't feel like people
Well,
talking. It feels like
they didn't do
yeah.
that well though, because like she said, like it didn't get resolved.
Yeah,
It
no,
was
no,
just
no. It didn't get resolved, but like if it got resolved, I think they were trying to resolve it, but I think this book changed creative teams. Like like even if for some things it was like seamless, like the writers of this book got dropped out of the book. So like even if it like in the context of the like real life, I guess they didn't get a chance to resolve it. I mean, they got a lot of chances. They could have done it before, but that's one of the storylines that they drop that they didn't solve before going out of the book. So like they could have done it, but I wouldn't. I would still have not believed a single word that either of these characters have said in front of each other, because it feels like they're trying to give me a class in like tolerance or whatever. So like, which is very like of its time, because this is a book in which 9/11 was very present in the minds of people. So like they have a good intention, I guess. Like the intention of the book, I guess, is like trying to normalize a Muslim person like just existing. But it's weird because those are not conversations that people have in real life. Like Serge is not talking like a person; he's talking like a philosophy or an ethical class for like teenagers. So like, which is one of the reasons that I don't like Serge as a character. Her interactions with Das really kill whatever like other interactions she has with other characters, because it's weird. It's just weird. And
yeah.
that's okay. And that's as a character, I do believe that from the creation of this character, she has been problematic to say the least, and that's something that you can't erase. You can like try to make it better, but I don't think that's where Marvel is putting their pennies on. Like I don't think it ever has. So yeah, it would be great for like a Muslim author to write Dust, and I don't
Redesign.
and redesign, and I don't think that's happened. No, that's not
I
happening, because
think
I'm
she
thinking of the
needs.
Muslim writers in Marvel like Saladin Ahmed, Nadia
Mhm.
Samas, and I don't think neither of those have touched Dust.
I think they really need to do like what they did with and I hate that it's like an Infinity Online comic and not like a, just put out as like a regular mini series, but like Karma and Love on the like Marvel Unlimited. I don't know if you guys read that, but it's like
I don't
they
have
had.
Marvel Limited.
I know
Yeah,
of it, but I've not read it yet.
And I'm
but
sad because Karma in Love sounds like the theme that I want to
it's
read.
so good. It's so good. And they got, a Vietnamese team to write like a
Mhm.
little mini series for her, and they finally like addressed like her
Yeah,
name, and
Chung
they
Lee. Yeah.
finally yeah, and they finally addressed like her name being like incorrect and like what she should actually be called, and like they finally like touched on her brother and stuff like that. And it was so good. Like I absolutely loved it. It was long overdue. And it would be great to see them do something like that for Dust also. Like to kind of yeah, you can't go back in time and like fix the problematic shit that they've done, unfortunately, but to at least like, do
Reframe it.
something. Yeah, like and let people like have someone tell some of her story like an own voices
Yeah.
story.
I definitely think that Dust was very mishandled and was used as essentially a tool for her entire existence. Like, she was used to kind of show that friction with Surge. She was used to show what a good person Jay was, because Jay was great and respectful. And I favorite romance in the book is what might have happened with Jay and Soraya. And then again, I felt like they used her to show that even though Laura was not at all socially learned, she was still respectful. Because that was her first interaction with Dust, was pretty much being like, "Oh, hey,
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay,
this is your
Laura.
religion, okay," and then that was it. That was it, and it was such a shift from what Dust went through with Surge. I felt like it was used to kind of show a level of Laura in this book.
I have a question for you both about Laura. Do you both believe like Laura is painted as not living in society before this? Because that's weird for me. Because that's not like she literally was a sex worker before this book. Not even as a, that doesn't make them as a trafficked child
Mhm.
before this book. So
Well, we I think yes, but it also I think it works for Laura because she wasn't living in society.
yeah,
She
that's true.
was
She was in the streets, homeless.
exactly, and she well
Mm.
even homeless, she never really
I mean,
like
she
her
related with a
connection,
yeah, she related with a
her-
bunch of other kids, but they were all
and it
being like
wasn't
in the same situation.
consistent relating. Like she formed that bond with Kitten and Katiana and Bobby Soul. Is that his name? The third guy? The Knicks kids.
Yeah, the Nick
She made
kids.
the
I don't
connection
remember the
with
name.
them, but then was almost immediately gone from that.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
she wasn't socialized until the new X-Men is the way
Yeah,
I read it.
I
It's
totally agree. I
weird
think
to
it
me
was
because, like,
like
to me,
about
I'm seeing her more like an adultified character than a non-socialist
Well,
one. Like in my book, it's more like she's fully an adult and they are all children and they don't get it. But like, yeah, I guess you can see it the other way as well.
I mean,
Like, I guess this has like the two sides of the same
she
coin.
she can be a non-socialized adult. Like it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think that she grew from her trauma, but like I don't know if she knows how to relate to people, let alone people her age.
That m- that makes a lot of sense of why I like her so much.
But
Sorry, because
yeah, I was
that
gonna say
was
I think
me
it's
as a
both.
teenager. Yeah, that was me as a teenager. I didn't have friends, but I have had adult friends. So
Mhm.
like that makes sense in a lot of ways. Because like, yeah, okay, that's why I like Laura so much. Thank you, Gabriel.
And
This
you
feels
also
like a
see
psychology session.
like
What were you saying?
when Mercury gets like taken by the facility and tortured by them, like I think that's like kind of a first moment where Laura is like, I know what she's been through. Like now I can help her and I want to help her. And like so it's like it's really sad that that's like the only way that she kind of is able to identify with Mercury is because they've both been through this horrible experience. But like that then at least like allows them to kind of bond and like when they weren't really like friends before that. But so I think it's both. It's like yeah, she's not used to being around like socializing with kids her age like in a normal. They're definitely not in a normal situation, but uh and just in general, I think she like hasn't been able to connect with people before that really like for long, not for long enough to like have a stable friendship with someone.
Sorry, I this has been like really a realization for me because like I really like Laura, but I haven't put into words like the reason, and I'm
Mhm.
like, wow. Okay,
It's a Karen moment.
I love that.
okay.
So,
Hmm.
who do
Go
you
ahead.
guys think is the underutilized characters of New X-Men, other than all of them?
like
Okay,
now in
inside the
general or
group,
during the run?
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay,
start
same
with in the
question.
run, and then we'll move on to in general, which is going to be really hard because literally all of them, except Prodigy, he's the only one who does things.
Yeah, Prodigy like took off recently.
Who do you think is underutilized in this run?
In this run, I
Um,
think I agree. It's like even though she was depowered, like it sucks that Wind Dancer was gone so soon because I liked her as a character too. Like I think her personality was a good balance to the other characters on the team, and so it's a bummer that she just was gone for half of the book. And then also uh Anole and Match and like the kids that we get in like the very end start to finally be a part of the team. Like I wish that they had been more a part of the team the whole time because there's a lot of really great characters there.
So I'm going to plug one of my favorite never spoken about books, and that is, I don't know what volume, but New Warriors.
oh
That
yeah.
took off after House of M because that's where Sophia goes, and I do love
Right,
her
right.
there. I love Jubilee there. I don't understand what's going on with Jubilee, but that's just they don't know what to do with Jubilee. And I oddly absolutely love Decibel, which is Chamber
Oh,
with
I can't talk about
sound powers.
it.
I love that, and I
I
hate
no,
that we
I can't
never
talk
see it again.
about it.
Chamber's another one of my favorite. We should
Me
just do a
too.
show
I'm
on
like
Chamber.
Chamber's my all-time favorite. Like I this whole conversation will change if I start
Yeah.
talking about Chamber.
I love the design of Decibel. I love what he's doing there. I love how he has a creative power instead of a destructive power on purpose. I just read New Warriors. Everyone, just please. But yeah, Duna, who is your underutilized in this run?
I think I gotta agree with Tori. Like, I really like Sophia as a point of view. Like, that's the thing that I like the most of New Mutants Podium 2. Like, those issues were like really enjoyable for me because, like, yeah, I understood why they have to like change point, like to shift the perspective, but I really, yeah, and I agree with you on the New Worlds stuff. And yeah, I would have loved to see more of Anole, but just because I love the gays, so like Anole and like interacting with North Star and Karma, because that makes sense within this book. And like my favorite X-Men run is the one in which we have like Karma, Non-Star, and Iceman, and like basically all the gays, which is the Marjorie Leo one. So like, yeah, maybe like, of course, I would have loved to see more of Anole. I'm trying to think who else was underutilized here because there's a lot of like secondary characters. Like there's a lot of characters that appear for like brief reasons, like DJ and like
DJ.
Yeah,
yeah.
DJ. And
DJ
Trance for
has
sure. We talked about her.
yeah. DJ has what I think is the coolest power in the entirety of the X-Men.
I knew I was gonna turn something
And
in when I said DJ.
You turned the switch.
like DJ is one of my like passion characters.
Mhm.
Like, but then he shows up again in Krakoa, and he's a douche. Like
Yeah,
he is just a bad. Like I hated him in Legion of X. I think he shows up, or Way of X, or whatever, something of X, and then he never shows up again. Like we still don't
Yeah.
even have his powers fully developed. And for those of you who don't know who DJ is, who are watching, his power is he develops different powers based on the music he's listening to.
it's really cool. Like like the idea, it's really cool. But I think like Loa, there's a bunch of
Lola,
characters
yeah.
here that I really, really like the idea of, and they basically do nothing.
Yeah.
So
I know. I
like,
think that's like. I think that's another reason why I like this run so much is because like we got introduced to not like only some great characters, but so many characters with such cool powers and like such cool concepts. And then instead of like continuing to develop those amazing characters, especially the ones we didn't get to see as much of, they like went through this weird period where they kind of kept like making up new mutant kids and like but Anole was still always there as a student, like never growing up and like when were the other kids? Like stop
Yep.
making up new ones that suck and bring us back the other ones.
I absolutely agree. There were such interesting concepts, both in the surviving kids and the ones that didn't survive. Like
Mhm.
one thing we mentioned before the show, trance exists. Trance is there. Trance has this power that it could bust out of hell. I, gun to my head, I could not tell you anything about this girl's personality. I know
Hmm.
nothing about her. Um,
Yeah.
and there's so many like kids that were killed that I wish we knew more about. I am fascinated by the Vale sisters. Jessica and
Mm,
Sarah Vale,
yeah.
codenamed Network and Preview, are a set of sisters, twins. I don't know. One is a cyberpath. She like networks with computers. The other one is a limited precog. I feel like the two of them together is such a concept that someone could make such a good story about seeing the future and technology. Like we need that. I do think for me personally, what the biggest wasted character though is Tag.
Hmm.
He was a main character for the first like
Mhm.
18 issues. He did nothing. He had no development. He even in the Hellion miniseries that came out, where we got like focus on almost all the Hellions. We got to see Wither dealing with his powers, which is the normal. We got to see Dust finding her mother, and then which is a storyline that we never see again. And then we get Tag, who becomes everyone else's agent. Is his big wish.
Yeah, he's really just there, and that sucks.
And his power maybe could have been cool, but he doesn't do anything like ever.
Okay,
So
I got one
Yeah.
question for yeah. Okay, I got one question for you both. I'm gonna try to see how I frame this. I have one thing that happens right now with me. It's like I wanna like there's so many characters that I wanna see like developing the books that are not developing, and the ones I'm
Mhm.
most interested in right now are not these. Are the characters that Vita Ayala created for New Mutants, because most of them are queer, like they're trans or non-binary. So I wanna see like
Mhm.
main books with like trans and non-binary characters. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
uh but at the same time, do you both believe, like, because I don't know when the X-Men books, especially these like X-Men books for teenagers, which again is weird because there's tons of shit that happens here, but it's framed towards teenagers anyway. So like these books, these X-Men books for teenagers, uh do you both believe like they make new characters too much or not? Like without like, because I Tori said something like that right just a minute ago, without like following up on them, because
Mhm.
like I don't know if my question makes sense, which is
um
basically like there are some characters here just cool and not like, and they need to actually like do stuff with the characters you put in the book, or are you okay with having characters that are like totally secondary?
I think I'm good with there being new characters. I love fresh blood, particularly since it allows further diversity in the X books.
Mhm.
But if there is not a clear reason as to why we are getting a whole new cast of characters with minimal returning characters, I'm annoyed by that. Like Wolverine and the
Mhm.
X-Men. I believe the only returning characters that were featured was Kid Omega, who was recently brought back to life, and oh yeah, I think were the only ones that were not brand new. We got Brew and Shock Girl and Nature Girl and Eye Boy, and even the naming of these characters
Thank
irks
you.
me. But
Rainbow.
Rain Boy. That's all I could think of was Rain Boy. I just remember when I like opened that like because I was so excited for like the New Mutant series, and I was like, Rain Boy?
Rainbow.
Are you kidding?
But that be also, it's like the only time they've added a new generation to the X-Men, and there was no Guthries. I have a problem with that. There are still
Yeah,
more
where's the
children.
Guthrie?
There are more Guthries. You could have added one. You could have
That's a
plucked
great
one
point.
up. There's a Seth, there's a Lewis. They've not done anything. But that aside. But then there are other new groups like Children of the Atom. I understand. I know they're not really mutants and whatnot, but Vita Ayala, they had such a concrete reason for creating a new team, which was
Mm.
Generation Z. These characters who grew up knowing the X-Men as heroes, not as hated and feared. It was a very specific intent that I don't think could have been done with recycled characters. But I think that has to do with the intent. And with Vita Ayala's new characters in New Mutants, I feel like there was an intent behind it. There was this intent of adding diversity. Cosmar has a very specific purpose that can only be fulfilled by Cosmar. Um, and then even then, they used existing characters. They used a Knoll. They used Martha. They used Rainbow was. I don't know who Rainbow is.
Yeah, Rainbow
I
was there.
I don't know where he came from. I just know he's there,
I
and
don't either.
I don't
I
think
think
he
he
was
came from
new,
there.
but he. I know I've heard the name before, so I don't know where he came from. Uh,
Rainbow came from here.
Yeah,
from
I
New
think that
X
was.
Men.
Yeah.
No,
He did?
wait.
Who
Oh
is
no?
he? No, I don't think
I
so.
think yes. I'm gonna
I
try
know
I
to
thought
think.
he was like
Hydro
brand
is
new, but maybe not.
so like I don't know where he came from, but like
Maybe not from this run, but like I
maybe
have
from
seen him
Wolverine,
with
or
these characters.
he might have been one of the other squads that don't show up in Academy X-Men.
Oh,
Because
okay. Because I have
we
seen
see,
him with these
yeah,
Yeah, that's
characters.
possible.
we see 6 squads in Academy X, and then we get reference to Gambit squad in Onyx and Bling. But I know
Mhm.
Storm had a squad that we never hear from again, and other people had squads. There were more students than just the Academy X kids, so maybe he showed up in one of those.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you were saying, Gabriel. Though, like, it's not necessarily like I don't want there to be new characters, but it's the intent because like you can tell when it's like, okay, we're gonna make a class of like throwaway random mutant kids, and then like we're just never really gonna talk about them again. Like instead of like doing that repeatedly, like can we get another like new class of kids that we get to follow for a while and actually like see something happen, kind of like the Academy X kids? Because yeah, it's just like it just feels very disjointed lately, like when they do that. But then sometimes it's good, like obviously like Escapade and stuff like that. Like that's stuff that we need to see, like more characters like that added. But let's not also like forget about the great characters we also have. Like we can have both. We don't have to just never hear about these characters again. So much potential.
Yes.
Okay, it
So
was a good question because the answer was yes.
so now I have a question for you both. You get to pitch a book about one Academy X character. You don't have to be the one to write it, but who would you say, hey, give this person a book? And not everyone getting therapy, because that's my idea.
I am gonna say a Knoll because I feel like a Knoll has had great moments, but I think especially like at points a Knoll was kind of like a token gay character. It's just kind of like yeah, a Knoll's gay, and like I was like okay, but like can we get like something like for a Knoll to do? And I think it's weird that like again he was in this class of Academy X kids who've all grown up and gone on to other things pretty much, even Pixie, but then Enola is still kind of being portrayed as if he's like 12. And it just doesn't really make sense to me. So I would like to see maybe Enola get a little mini series or something at least.
I lost myself in the question. Can you repeat, Gabriel? Sorry.
If you could pitch one Academy X kid to have their own book, who would you pick?
Oh, okay. Say yours first.
If I had to pick only one character, I think I'm gonna go with Bling. I know she isn't really featured, but she does show up in the ending, and I feel like she is such a neglected character throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's so much potential in Bling. And to give Duna more time to think,
No,
you got.
no. Say more. Say
Oh,
more.
I was just gonna say with Anole, there actually is a really good novel, Belle
Oh
Anole by
yeah,
Robbie. I want to say McNiven is the last name. I
McNiven.
might.
Yeah,
Okay.
we interview Robbie. I
Yeah,
mean, we didn't. I wasn't there for that. So you all did. I was sick. Yeah,
and
right.
I don't remember who was on the show, but I know we had one.
Yeah,
And
you were
it's
there,
an
and
Anole, Greymalkin, and Cipher book.
Oh, well, I need to read this.
Yeah,
That sounds
and I
great.
think it's a really good one.
it's really
Cool.
good. You should. I was there. I don't know if I was there or not. Now
I
I'm
think
gonna
you were
look
there
it
for
up
that
on
one
YouTube. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I have no idea if I was
because it
there or
was
not.
Sabretooth was also there, and you spoke about Sabretooth.
No, Sabretooth was in Carrie's one.
Oh, you're right. Wait, you're right. Nope.
Yeah, but
Yep.
that's a spoiler, so let's not talk about that. So, okay. So no, that's not a spoiler. The spoiler is the villain. Okay, never mind. So anyway, Dust. The idea that you both said before. I'm sorry because I'm picking up your ideas today. Apparently, I'm like you both have such good ideas that I don't have to have my own. But like that Dust is probably the one I would say.
Yeah, I definitely.
Yeah.
Probably when I read this, the one I would have chosen would have been Pixie. But that happened
Yes.
and it
Mhm.
was not good.
It
So
was weird.
Okay, agreed.
so like since that happened and I didn't like it, I'm not sure I'm the best to choose. That's why I'm choosing your option. Uh, but yeah, Dust probably Dust. Yeah, Dust. Or Mercury. Let's get messy.
Mercury with her two girlfriends. Yeah, let's do it.
Yes,
Let's
yeah,
do
I was gonna
it.
say like, you said bling, so like this is perfect.
Yeah, Mercury with her two girlfriends. Let's explain that whole situation.
Yeah,
Polyamory X-Men book. I'm
yeah, here
Yes.
for it.
Please.
okay. So that is the best ending for the show. If you have anything else to say, but like I feel we reached the highest point here with
The
Mercury's
highest point is
polyamory
yes,
book, and I feel like everything we would say after that is worse. But like, if you have
just
anything
pales
else,
in comparison.
okay. So this ends with please Marvel gives us a book with Mercury and her two girlfriends, maybe possibly three, whatever happens. Uh,
We'll start the petition.
Or therapy.
yeah, we do
Or
have
give us
to.
a therapy book.
Oh yeah, the therapy book.
New
That's
X-Men
Yeah,
real.
therapy. It could
these
be
are
an
our
anthology, one issue per character, like work through that
we need a
trauma.
we need a Dust Own Voices solo. We need a therapy book, and we need the polyamory girlfriends book. Let's make it happen.
Yeah,
And an Anole solo ongoing. We
Yeah,
need that.
yeah. Let him
yeah. And
grow up
what's
with
the
it.
one
We
you
get a little
said,
older.
Gabriel? What's the one you said?
I said bling, but that
Oh, but that
she
works.
fits.
Yeah,
She fits in the polyamory book. It works.
Exactly.
So those are our
perfect.
demands, Marvel. You know how to reach us.
Yeah, give us a
Yeah.
call.
If you need writers,
Yeah,
we
we'll
can
just write them.
recommend some really good ones because we interview really good, cool people here.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much, Story, for coming to our show
Oh,
today. We had so much fun. This was so much
yes,
fun.
thank you. Thank you for letting me gush about new X-Men with you.
Yay! That was great. We'd love to have you again. I will try to write you if I find any other stuff that goes on your like that you might like. Like if we
Oh,
do a
thank
show or
you.
something you might like, I will probably be like, we do a show with this and these people and whatever. So you are catch up with that stuff. So anyway, that was
And
great. And also next time maybe we can have Dan as well.
Yes, I was gonna say I would love to come back and have Dan on because he was very sad that he couldn't make it. But we're so
Yeah.
excited to have you guys on our show next
Next
weekend talking
week.
about
Yeah.
costumes.
yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
keep
gonna
your eyes
that's
open for
exciting.
next week for when we talk costumes, and also for our second Mutant Watch show this weekend tomorrow.
I don't know how we do
A
this.
twofer.
Tomorrow we're talking with Rob Race, the artist from the Labors of Magic New Mutants arc. I have an excuse to call it a magic show because it's
And
literally
Maddie.
called the Labors of Magic.
And Maddie. And
I'm,
Maddie.
but that's not in the title.
Disrespect.
And we also have
That's
Ice
gonna be
Queen.
great. I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, we have Connor, who is like the biggest Ileana nerd after me, and then we have Aislinn, who is like the first one. So that's gonna be great. I even think they're better Ileana fans than me, and don't don't quote me like that. So anyway, okay, so yeah, and we hope we have you undone soon on the show. And this was great. And thanks everyone for watching. And Gabriel, as always, for being my co-pilot and keeping me on track. Anyway.